Hey guys, we're live. It's Ted Bogert with the Ted Show. Happy, I've lost track of days, Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, May 12th. Very excited to have the one, the only Jay Rothman on. Hey Jay, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Ted.
Very nice to meet you. You've got a fascinating story, a very inspirational story, in my opinion. And so I'm always looking to get that kind of inspiration out to people. And I think you are the right person to share your story. I love the title, Coming Home. That has so many meanings to so many people. So enough about me. Let's hear about you. Tell them a little bit about you, Jay.
Well, let's just. I guess I'll start out by saying I was living in the society of the U.S. of A., living and chasing the American dream as a modern man. Had great success early in my life. I had an established career. By the time I was in my early 20s, I was off and running to the races, and ultimately, my whole focus was truly on defining myself by my wealth and my success and career. And along the way, I met a woman. I married a beautiful woman, had 3 children, 3 sons, and from the outside, it looked like the perfect family, the perfect family man and a businessman. And there are a lot of luxuries that came along with living a modern lifestyle. However, over years and decades, I realized that although it appeared as though everything was going well inside myself, I was very lonely and I was not happy. And I spent decades trying to fill up that empty void inside that many of us experience in life. I tried everything, It wasn't, if it wasn't the cars, it was the clothing. If it wasn't the clothing, it was vacations, the homes, more pets, more kids. And what I learned the hard way was that none of those external stimulants could really help what was going on the inside. And what was going on the inside was that unknowingly, I had a lot of shadows, refer to it as shadows in the world that I live in today. A lot of old wounds, moments, pivotal experiences in my life that had impacted me, and I never was paying attention to them, especially as a man living in a society. I distracted myself as much as I could with business, with raising a family, but ultimately that underlying emotional feeling of just not being satisfied, not being happy with myself and my life, caught up with me. And eventually, my relationships, many of them were damaged, wounded, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain at home, outside of my home. And my body started to shut down. And when it was all said and done, by the time I woke up, the second time that I faced mortality was in 2015, just shy of 5 years ago. This time, my body was really giving me a very clear message that I was out of time and I was out of answers. And what I realized as I lay in a hospital bed for close to a week, that it was do or die. And for me, it meant either making significant changes in my life or just having a knowing that I had less than a year. If I didn't change how I was choosing to show up in my own life, that I was not going to make it, because but this time I had accumulated 9 different medical diagnoses, and so so that's kind of the backstory of what.
Let me ask you. I have lots of questions for
Okay,
you based on that. So my first question is do you feel like it is do you feel you're unique, or do you feel like this is a problem that a lot of people, especially, I mean, I just feel like men carry it. It just seems to be more men. Maybe maybe there's equal amounts, but do you feel like it's something unique to you, or just a handful, or do you feel like there's a lot of people out there who face the same kind of thing?
I just look at statistics and numbers, and they don't lie. I look at the health and wellness of not only American society, but throughout the globe. We are not a healthy society when you look at addictions, when you look at opiate abuse and overdoses, when you look at the suicide rates, when you look at obesity in this country, when you look at how many people have diabetes, heart disease, that eventually leads to dementia and Alzheimer's. I know I'm not alone. I know I wasn't alone, but I will say this is that unfortunately, like myself, who thought that medicine was my answer, that all I needed to do was take another pill and that would control my diabetes, that would control my heart disease, that would control my high cholesterol, that would control my blood pressure, and then adding on the generalized anxiety disorder that they had me on emotional pharmaceuticals for 21 years for anxiety, antidepressants. I mean, I had close to a dozen different pills, pill bottles in my chest, and I thought that as long as I took the pills, I was okay.
Right.
And that wasn't the truth. It was just getting me sicker. It was causing more peripheral diseases, more collateral damage. So to answer your question, do I think that I'm unique? I think that I was part of. I was a huge part of society living in pain. But what's happened for me is that I no longer feel like I'm part of that because I choose not to live in pain. I choose to feel the pain today. And by feeling the pain, it allowed me I gave myself permission to start to feel my emotions as a man and start to be able to like share my story and give myself permission to even cry. And you never know when the tears are going to come. Today, most of the tears are tears of gratitude. But
Sure.
yeah, I think that unfortunately, we live in a society where we have old belief systems that have been handed down to us generationally speaking, as well as at the schools, as well as our teachers, our mentors. We live in these belief systems of how we're supposed to show up, and it's flawed.
Why do you think? Why do you think it's hard? Like, I have a feeling people will say, "Well, he must have had something incredibly traumatic in order for him to not take care of his body that way, to live in the fast lane like he did." These are my words. Um, but in reality, I know a lot of people too who have come to a similar realization to you, and it wasn't anything that was so desperately traumatic, but it was so much that was unfinished and unhealed that led them to that empty feeling, that feeling of no matter what I have, it's never going to fill this void. And I'm going to try to minimize the pain by taking the opiates or doing whatever it is that you do. Everybody's got a different vice. And it just feels like so many people, like you said, are walking around with this and they'll shake their heads listening to this, going, well, I should be able to eat what I want. I'm fine. Everybody else is fine. I don't want to make a big deal out of something that happened 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago. What do you say to those people?
I say that if you have the courage to heal those old experiences, those wounds, those traumas, and they don't have to be huge. It could just be even pivotal experiences that impacted your life, that when you have the courage to just explore them, look at them, and work with someone like myself, who today I am a transformational coach. I guide people along their own healing journey. We can set ourselves free from the shackles of inner bondage. And when we do that, I get to raise my arms today every single day when I'm out in nature and I scream out loud, yes, I am free. I am free. What I'm free from is the thoughts and the feelings that impacted my body in the end. And by the time I woke up, I had mastered 5 different addictions, and none of them included alcohol and drugs. But I had picked up addictions along the way to try to help distract me from feeling what I was feeling on the inside, not even realizing it, but just in so much, let's say, unconscious pain living, that addictions had taken a pretty strong hold on me. And so, is it possible that here's the truth: is that I didn't know what I didn't know until I knew it. But once I started to understand that self-care was the antidote to saving my own life. And when I say that, I'm not just talking about going to the gym and changing my diet. because I didn't do either of those two things when I hit my rock bottom. It was about a lifestyle. It wasn't about a diet. It wasn't about going to the gym. I decided I didn't want to go to the gym this time around. I wanted to be out in nature, and I wanted to learn how to connect with wildlife and with the power of the earth and with the power of myself. And through that process, what I found was that it was the gateway. It was the gateway to liking myself and eventually falling in love with me. And
Did
Aaron,
you know you didn't like yourself? Did you know that you were not happy with you? I'm curious because I think a lot of people do a lot of in that scenario because there's a lot of people out there who are hurting. And so, but a lot of people, it's easier for them to blame external forces rather than look inward. Did you know you didn't like yourself at the time? Or did that have to come to a realization as you're going through your own transformation?
it's a good question, Ted. And I think it's both. I think that for me, by the time I hit my so-called bottom and I was near death, my body was literally shutting down. I As I laid there in a hospital and I had that chance to face mortality now for the second time, because 6 years earlier I had a heart attack when I was 48, and I thought that would be my wake-up call. But it really wasn't, because what I didn't understand is that back then my belief system was that I just needed to lose 40 pounds and go to the gym and change my diet. And what I found was that it worked for a short time until life got difficult at the office and got more difficult at home. And then I had that moment that people that may be familiar with 12-step programs, they have that what's called the effort moment. But I just like, screw it, I'm throwing it away. I'm going to go back. I went back. I bought a pack of cigarettes. I went back to using food as an unhealthy relationship. You know, I put back the 40 plus 20 more. So now I was 60. I was deep into my work addiction. I had other addictions, codependency. I had a sex addiction challenge. I had it all. And at the end of the day, the answer is that I knew that I was hurting. I knew I was miserable, but I felt trapped, like millions of other men.
Right.
And I didn't know how to get out of the trap because I was making more money than I had ever made. And I wasn't happy anywhere I looked in my life. My life was out of control. And so really what it came down to was that when you're laying in a hospital bed, I had the gift of a spiritual awakening. When I was in that hospital bed, I had so much pain and I had so much time on my hands to really think about, I just kind of scanned my life. And in scanning my life, I realized this is that I hated who I had become, but I didn't know who I was. And so began my healing journey. The journey was self-discovery, was learning who I truly was, not on the outside, not wearing the armor of the suit and tie, but learning who I was at my core, right here in my heart space, so that I can decide, do I want to come home? Do I want to come home to get to know who I am? Right. Or do I want to continue to be this man, this successful man who had it all, but on the inside I was dying? And so that's how it worked.
And so tell me, and I believe that there are many, countless people that we all know. I guarantee you there's somebody who's listening or who's listening that knows somebody that they think of immediately when they hear you talking about your story, because there are many. I have many friends I could think of right off the top of my head who live that empty lifestyle by choice, and a lot of them have no earthly idea how to break the cycle, but they're in a cycle where they're continuing to maintain, they're making good money, they're getting the accolades, they're finally at a place in their career or whatever it is that drives them. And I think it's very telling that they all begin to run out of steam. There is a breaking point for for everyone at some point. And so you work with people to do that. You're a transformational coach. So talk about what that means. It's one thing to have the epiphany and change your life, but then you decided you wanted to change and impact other people's lives. So tell me what a transformational coach is.
Well, my role is not to change people, and it's not to help people. Mm-mm. What I do today is I'm here to inspire people and create a safe space where I can guide them through, walk them through the healing process what I refer to as mind, body, and soul, focusing on the 4 pillars of living, of healthy living, which is the emotional, the mental, the physical, and the spiritual. And what I do with them is I share, not from a theological perspective. There is a lot of self-help books that are shelf-help books, because you could read a book and think that you could do it on your own. But the reality is most people don't. Most people may be impacted by a book they read, but less than 3 days later, they're not following the book and they don't remember exactly what they read in the book. I'm guilty as charged. I was one of those people. But the reality is that what I do is I share my blueprint for success, whether it be relationships that are damaged that you want to repair, whether it be your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual well-being. I had to focus on all 4 pillars if I wanted to experience what inner freedom can feel like. And that's the gift I give today, is providing people the inspiration that if they want it more than I want it for them, that they can, in fact, impact significant change in their life to where they no longer have to live in the shackles of an inner bondage. They can experience what freedom. And what freedom is, true freedom, is coming home to yourself, to experience what self-love can feel like. And what that experience, how it will change your life in all aspects.
I love the thought process. I like what you said. I'm inspiring them, I think, were your words. And I think that's what a lot of times when people hear the word coach, they're like, come on, just because he went through it, how in the world does he have the tools to understand anything I'm going through? And so they steer away. And then, of course, they think of the word transformation. They're like, well, this guy or this girl doesn't even know me. How is she going to help me? But what I think is important for people to know is that you give tools. You're not, from what I see, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're not bending them themselves. You're giving them the tools and inspiring them to make the bends and to make the changes and to make the breaks where they need to make them.
A big part of it is mastering the skill of listening and really interpreting the words that people speak, because the words that we speak are just, it's almost like there's a hidden language. It's almost like we speak in a cryptic language. And once we can break down the words, and what's behind those words are emotions. And so what I do is the skill set that I've mastered is a skill set of listening and really having experience. Look, I was in a 30-year marriage. I've had 3 kids. I made millions in my career. I had a very successful career. I've had periods in my life where I detached from my mom and dad twice for 4 years. So I've had it all. I've had friendships that lasted for 30 years, and I've had friendships that no longer are in my life of 30 years plus. So I've had a lot of experiences. I've dealt with great successes, and I've dealt with near-death experiences in how I was taking care or not taking care of myself. So, I did go to school. I became a certified coach. I didn't just hang a plaque outside my door. But ultimately, what really separates me from so many coaches and therapists is that a lot of them want to be teachers, and they're teaching from a book. They're teaching from a theory. They themselves haven't done the healing work. And a lot of the reason why many people get into the business is because really what's driving them is codependency. They think that they can help other people because they've been told that they're really good at helping people. But you see, I'm not in a business to help people. That's not my job. Ultimately, even when a client pays me, it doesn't always work. And what doesn't work is that they have to want it more than I want it for them. And no matter how good I am at inspiring, no matter how much of my story I share, ultimately it's within them whether or not they have a strong enough why. And really, ultimately, that's what it comes down to, is that we have to really hone in and deep dive into what is the why? What is it that you really want to change in your life? And the biggest challenge that we have is that by nature, we're lazy. We can been trained through mass media, through movies, through commercials, through music, that we don't have to do a whole lot. You know, there are answers, right, by going to your doctor and getting a prescription. And that if I just take this pill, I'll feel better, whether it be a physical disease or an emotional disease. And therein lies today. I'm drug free. I'm off of close to a dozen pharmaceuticals.
It's
I've reversed
amazing.
9 chronic major medical conditions. And you know, the doctors today, they still say they call me a complicated case, and I call BS on that. I said, no, it's not. What's complicated is that you don't understand how it's possible that someone like myself can heal.
Correct.
That's
Well,
what's
yeah,
complicated.
you're outside the normal parameters of what, or the parameters of what they would consider person would normally do to heal.
Right.
I have to ask, what if somebody's listening right now, which I'm sure they are, and wondering, all right, so I hear what he's saying. What's a first step? And I know everyone's is different, but what do you suggest if somebody has that final epiphany? You know what? I need to get my life together. I need to figure out what my life is, or I need to figure out who I am, or any of the above. What's the first thing that they should do? What is there a right first step? Are there multiple first steps?
There's multiple, but I'll break it down for you, Ted. First thing is you have to have the courage to surrender, the courage to say, remember the old word, uncle, I give up, I
Yes.
surrender. When your kids got your head in a headlock in the playground field,
Yeah.
that's what it comes down to. It's like I had to first say, I surrender, I give up. Like I understood in that moment, I had some clarity that my best thinking landed me right where I was in 2015. And nobody can get me out of that mess that I created for myself. I had to have courage. That's the first step. The second step was that, you know, a lot of people ask me that when they're contemplating working with me. They say, well, where do I begin? I get overwhelmed. And
Right.
my answer to them is one word, one syllable: start. Start. And then the back end of that is, this is the most powerful part, is show up and grow up. Because ultimately, that's what we're talking about here, is that if you want to take your life back and become the person that you were born to be, which is free, you have to be willing to show up and grow up. You can't continue to live your life in the space of your ego driving every decision that you're making. And when ego is not driving the decisions, it's that little child, that little boy or little girl that's still alive within all of us, that is just scared and ultimately just wants a few things in life. It's to be loved and loved. And once we understand that little child is still alive, and that how we can show up and grow up is for that little boy and that little girl inside and say, okay, I'm ready to figure out what I have to do to learn how to take care of you and how to parent you so that we can feel better about ourselves and stop letting ego, which drove every decision in my life, to ruin my life. The ego worked for me until it stopped.
It's not a long term. It's gonna end up crashing at some point, which I agree with you. All
Yeah.
right. So how do people reach you? What if somebody says, all right, I want to learn more, Jay?
Yeah. Well, there's many different ways you could reach me. I launched back 2 years, coming up on 2 years ago. I launched. I've got 3 different shows that you could find me on Facebook and YouTube, live streaming. One of the shows I'm excited about all of them, but one of them in particular is Real Men, Real Talk Live. I started that show initially. That was my first show, and I would bring men into the studio that had to have a story, some type of backstory of from surviving to thriving in life. And in the last couple of months, I relaunched the show and brought in co-hosts, and I've got 4 co-hosts with me, and each man is just absolutely powerful, successful in their own life, tremendous men that show up, showing their vulnerability. Although they've had great success, we talk about the topics that men need to hear about and women want to hear about, so that they could begin to understand men in a healthier way. And so that's a powerful show. That's on Friday nights at 6 p.m. on the West Coast, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. And I've got my co-host Charles Maddox. He's a filmmaker, executive producer, celebrity chef, father of 4. I've got Josh Richer, who's He's a mental wealth coach, and he's also the art director of Shark Tank and many other successful TV programs. I've got Jeff Fasano, who is he's a celebrity photographer. And then we've got Evis Heath coming in from down under, from Australia. She's a very successful, originally fitness model, and now he is a coach that works with people that also kind of want to live the life that he and I live today. We have a lot in common. The other way you can get hold of me is just through Facebook, through Messenger. My website is healmindbodysoul.com. The hardest thing is sending the text, but once you get past that fear of saying, hey, I'm ready. I'm ready. I want to experience what you live today. I want to feel the way you feel. And what do I got to do to get there? How do I get there? Take me there. There's many ways to get to the, if you put an address in your GPS, this, Ted, they give you at least 3 different ways to get there. And then we have to figure out the best way for us. And that's really what I do, is I guide you to the shortest, quickest way to feeling better about yourself and improving your life.
It's amazing. You're a joy, my friend. Thank you so much. I mean, I was mesmerized by so much of what you said, mainly because I've been one of those people. So I've had my own journey, my own epiphany, but I know so many people who haven't hit that yet, that are just teetering. And they have to be ready. Like you said, they have to want it more than you want it. And they have to figure that out on their own. But gosh, I wish that more people would open their eyes and realize that they're leading these lives that there's just one end to them, and it's not the positive end that they would like to have. They can have the freedom that you talk about. But I want people to reach out to you and learn more, watch your shows, get to know Jay Rothman. You are an amazing guy. Thank you so much for sharing everything and sharing your journey, my friend. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me on today, and hopefully we've touched and reached a man or a woman. I work with more women than men because women seem to have more courage than the men. Although I've got some incredible, beautiful men, I work with one-on-one. I also have a group coaching group that we work on Wednesday nights and Sundays, and we also I bring in experts in the field of health and wellness. It's a powerful group, and that group you could join at any time. People come in, people come out. More people come in than go out. So if you don't want to work one-on-one and you want to build some new experience and build a community around your own healing journey, it's another way to get in on the action and do some healing work.
Fantastic.
So thank you for having me today.
Thank you. HealMindBodySoul.com. Jay Rothman, thank you so much. Guys, please reach out, get involved, go check him out. It's amazing the work that he's doing, honestly. Thank you, Jay, so much.
Thank you.
Y'all have a great one. See you later.
Okay.
Bye, Jay. Thanks so much, my friend.